Now the Oscar for Achievement in Sound. You know, for years, movies didn't have sound, and then they figured it out. Some people say that the silent era was the golden era of film. These people are difficult and insane. Without sound, we wouldn't have been able to hear such classic lines as, "You're gonna need a bigger boat. I'll have what she's having." And he was in the Amazon with my mother when she was researching spiders just before she died. Or what about that moment in Field of Dreams when we hear, "If you build it, he will come." And then Costner does it. He builds a baseball field. Well, I guess he doesn't build it. He mows down corn, and then there is a field. And then he's like, "I'm going to watch Ghost play baseball." And the bank is like, "You want to pay your mortgage?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm going to watch Ghost play baseball." And then he finds James Earl Jones, who wrote The Boat Rocker, which I thought was a real book deep into my 20s. And he's like, "People will come, Ray." He's the only one with a financial plan. But what's weird is Timothy Busfield pushes little Gabby Hoffman off the bleachers, and she falls down, and she's unconscious. Then Burt Lancaster is Moonlight Graham, and he comes up and he pats her on the back a couple times, and he's like, "Hot dogs stuck in the throat." And then he can't go back in the game, because I guess there's a rule in Ghost Baseball that if you leave the field at any point to become an elderly ghost and do the Heimlich maneuver, you can't return to the field. I love Field of Dreams. That should win Best Picture, though they'll probably go with one of this year's. Here are the nominees for Achievement in Sound.
Hello there, all you winners and losers, and welcome back to Spro and Lee Take on the Academy, the podcast for Academy Award do-overs. My name is Lee.
And I am Spro.
And we are joined by a guest today. Let us introduce everyone listening out there to Megan. How are you, Megan?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You're one of our Instagram followers. You and I have been conversing for a little while now. You are an avid film goer, and let's have a Q&A session real quick. Just let our listeners get to know you.
Sure.
So I've taught kids, Spro currently does. Your generation, I try to bring up movies with them and they're like not super interested. You're Generation Z, right?
Yeah, I was born in 99, so yeah.
I mean, there'll be movies that I bring up to students and not only have they not seen them, they're like, "I don't know what you're talking about." It's like, how is that possible? But you love movies. Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's literally all because of my dad. I also feel like this is very genetic. My grandfather, he always took my dad and his siblings to the cinemas. In India, they have intermission breaks in between movies, so because movies can be very long there, so it's required to have an intermission of sorts. And they have very traditional food, they'll bring out samosas and all kinds of traditional Indian snacks. So whenever that would happen, my grandfather would always insist on taking my dad and his siblings to the food court, making it a whole experience, consuming the food and watching the movie. For my grandfather, it was more of the consumption for food part, but for my dad, it was more of the movie aspect, because he was very entranced by the imagery, because movies were coming more into fruition and becoming popular at the time, and all the actors and actresses were very iconic then. And then for me, it translated into my upbringing essentially, because I remember when I was 6 years old, I went to a kid's birthday party for my classmate, and I was just so in awe by the imagery I saw on the screen for an animated film, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. I don't ever want to leave the cinema ever, because I'm just this little tiny kid sitting in a huge theater, and the screen is probably the size of my house in my mind. I'm like, this is amazing. I don't ever want to leave. So I eventually have to go home, and my dad is like, "You clearly love this. Let's keep watching movies." So whenever ads come on TV, I'm always like, "Look, I've seen that movie. I want to see that movie." So he would take me to the cinema, and then eventually he got so invested, he made a home theater for my sister and I in our basement, and he figured out all the wiring. He figured out everything because he wanted it to be his way. He didn't want anyone else to mess with it. So aside from creating the aesthetic for it, which contractors did, he did everything else himself, and that continued on into where we are at now. So he's always wanted to keep that alive for me and my sister unconsciously. But my sister doesn't necessarily like movies. I like movies, and so does my dad, so that's kind of where we differ. But I've always really liked movies ever since I was a little kid, so I feel it really is genetic.
That's right.
I feel like that's across the board, right? My dad got me into movies. To your dad, Lee?
Oh yeah. I mean, even now, I think it's one of the only things he and I can really talk about. But yeah, boy, that's a great story. I like the confluence of cinema and food too. I enjoy that.
I agree. I think also, I don't know how you feel about this, but I want to know your thoughts. I feel like intermissions in America should be a thing, like where they give you time to like, you know, use the washroom and like get food. Cause like, I personally don't feel like having a box of popcorn in like 11 in the morning. Like if I see a matinee, I'm like, this is when I need coffee. Like I don't need popcorn. So I feel like the halfway point when like the movie is getting into like noon or like 1, they should have intermissions. Like, what do you think?
I've been to 2 movies in my life where there were intermissions. The first was Gettysburg, which I saw with my family in 1993. And the second was Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. I don't really remember Gettysburg too much. I do remember standing in the lobby being like, I just want to go watch the rest of the movie. But I was still smoking cigarettes when Hateful Eight came out. And I was with somebody that smoked. We went outside. We stood out in front of the theater and had a cigarette. And we were like, I think this is going to happen. He's like, I think this is going to happen. So it's a sweet way to sort of start to process everything that you saw, have a nice little dialogue with somebody. And I like the idea of a cup of coffee in between too, to sort of like jazz you up for the climax.
I will go to the point of pain to try and avoid going to the bathroom if I'm really enjoying the movie. So
Unhealthy.
like probably, but so I would love a bathroom break, especially now with the movies getting longer and longer. The movies that Lee drags me to are just some of the longest fucking movies I have ever seen. And I'm like, I need to get up and walk around so I don't fall asleep and waste $20 seeing this film.
So you wouldn't have seen Killers of the Flower Moon unless I dragged you to it. Are you serious?
I would have, because I read the book.
There you go. So
but if there was an intermission, I might have enjoyed it more than I did.
So I'm into it. I love intermissions.
I'll add that to my list of the things that I've begun hating about movie theaters. I don't know if they have the recliners out in Jersey. If you look at the headrests, they're all wearing out because of people's sweaty heads and the oils from their heads and whatnot. Super gross. The 30-minute trailers before movies.
Which brings to mind, if they did do intermissions, it wouldn't be like a cool title card with the overture playing.
The trailers there.
Or they would hit you with more commercials.
Which is fine. I don't have to sit there and watch them. I have to be on time. I'm an on-time person. And I know that there's going to be 30 minutes of trailers and commercials that I have to sit through because I'm diligent and I'm on time. I'm respecting the movie theater's schedule. And then my last complaint, I think, was Lee and I recently sat in a movie theater that was not temperature controlled. They put on the heat, which dried out our eyeballs, and then they put on the cold, which made us shiver, but like woke me up a little bit. So the movie theater experience in America is going downhill, but I think an intermission for especially like the longer ones, like if it's going to be over 2 hours, yeah, absolutely. Find that midpoint and pop that in.
Yeah, especially when you mentioned the seat thing, like you two like don't have like long hair like me, because when I go to a place like a cinema, I literally will put my hair up even though I can feel like the cold air on my neck. I'm like, even when COVID happened, like I was so paranoid, like I would bring a towel and like I would put it behind me and I'm like, I don't care if I look weird. I just like, it's so gross. And even some theaters here, some AMCs, like they don't have the reclining feature, or like if you go to a Regal or like some type of like fancy cinema, especially in New York. I went to one recently that didn't have reclining seats, but they were like known as a fancier one. I'm like, you say you're fancy, but you can't even provide reclining seats. Like not even for me, but for someone who actually like requires like that kind of leaning like function, you know? But like I feel like it would be kind of nostalgic or like cartoony to have like, and there's the commercial break like in the middle, and then have, like you said, the trailers like going then. Because like also I've known people to come really late to cinemas, and sometimes it bothers me. Sometimes I've been that person. I'm guilty of doing it too, but like it would be less useful or helpful to them, but then at the same time it's more of like an incentive to get people to come earlier. But yeah, I agree with all that.
So being a lover of the theater experience from a very young age, do you have like a favorite theater experience? I think I know the answer to this question now that I'm asking it out loud.
What do you think I'm going to say?
Coraline.
Yeah. That's definitely one of them. So my third grade teacher, her name was Mrs. Potter, and I always thought she was related to Harry Potter. That's always how I'll remember her. She was this really stunning woman. She looked like she could have been on the cover of like women's magazine. Like she was like really, really pretty. So she read this book to our class, and it was Coraline. And I always thought it was a weird juxtaposition to see such a beautiful model-like person reading such a macabre book. I was like, this is crazy. So when she read the book to us and she showed us the illustrations, I was in complete awe, and I was like, this is so cool. And everyone's like, this is disgusting. Like, I don't like this. Everyone was being really soft, and I was like, no, this is like, people were soft then. Like, I think people are soft now, but people were soft way back then. So I literally remember reading that book, and I was like, this is beautiful. I always want to see these illustrations. And that also got me into Neil Gaiman's literature in general. So like the year after, when I was in fourth grade, I met like my best friend at the time, and we were friends for like maybe 10, 11 years. And we like bonded over Coraline. Now, like I would go to her house, we'd play like computer games of Coraline at her house. But when we saw the movie, we saw them separately. So she saw with her parents, I saw with mine. And I remember my dad being viscerally, like he had a visceral reaction to it. He was very grossed out. He's like, what is this? Why did you drag me here? And my sister she was younger than me. She was like 8 years old maybe, and I was like 10. I don't remember her reaction, but I remembered enjoying myself, and my sister didn't seem too fazed. But I do remember we went to the grocery store after. Very, very random. But I was telling my dad, I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I always want to see movies like this. He's like, okay, you say that about everything. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. But my first like time ever loving cinema was what I told you before, when I went to the cinema and I was like 6 years old. I remember seeing Robots, like the 2005 like animated film. And like, I also have always liked both girls and like boys toys like growing up. I always like junkyard sets and like Bionicles and like stuff like that. But then I also like Bratz dolls and like pink stuff and traditional girls toys. So my mom like didn't mind that I liked robots, but like I know my dad had a big fit about it. But I remember being like, this is cool. Like they're like wacky creatures and they're like moving around, and I was so entranced by the imagery. And I remember like telling all my classmates, like, this is the best thing ever. How are you not entertained by this? Like,
Never seen Robots.
it's so good.
Did Robin Williams do a voice in that? Did I make that up?
He probably did. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Robots came out in 2005. It has the voice actors of Ewan McGregor, Halle Berry, Greg Kinnear, Mel Brooks, Amanda Bynes, Drew Carey, and Robin Williams. Cleveland's own Halle Berry and Drew Carey. That was like a Cleveland cast right there. Go Cleveland.
Oh my gosh. I low-key miss Halle Berry. Like I don't see her in many things these days.
She's directing now for Netflix.
So you have an affinity for animation particularly?
Yeah, stop motion obviously is a top for me. But 2D also. I feel like 2D has gone under the radar these days. You see mostly like 3D or like even stop motions coming more into fruition and popularity. But I feel like the simple hand-drawn animation is very hard to find. Even, especially by big studios. Like you'll see it from like smaller studios like Cartoon Saloon. Like they'll do the 2D animation, which I love, but not many people know about them.
We're also fans of Cartoon Saloon. So we're an Oscars show, and you were saying that, I mean, you're a very constant and avid film viewer. You go to the theater, like you said, you live near New York City, so you're able to go into New York. I mean, some of the first memories I have, because we've been following each other on Instagram, some of the first memories of you I have are you were at a screening asking a question of Darren Aronofsky. I'm like, how does she get to go to these badass fucking screenings? I was jealous, incredibly jealous, still am jealous. But you're not a big Oscars watcher? You don't really ever tune in for the Academy Awards?
I do. I didn't start getting into it, I guess, until the 93rd Oscars. Like, so I remember watching the Oscars back in 2012 because I was 13 at the time and Seth MacFarlane was hosting. And I didn't actually start watching Family Guy and anything until I was like 18 or 19. So a lot of my watch history, like, because I have a friend who's like 30 something and he like lives in Auckland, New Zealand, and he will literally tell me, he's like, you haven't watched anything yet you claim you're a cinephile. I'm like, well, this is also your standard. When I watch like films, like I remember I would treat the Oscars like homework. I would think I need to watch all the films in order to understand what's going on. So when 2012 rolled around, I thought, okay, I'm gonna try to watch all the films that I can, even though I am 13 and I cannot watch R-rated movies in the cinema yet. So I would try to like look up the discourse around it to see if I could understand it. But I remembered like I was in like, I think I was still in 8th grade at the time, and I took like a TV like presenting class. So we had like a fake teleprompter and we would read like the morning announcements, and I felt very like professional. Thanks. Yeah, I missed that class a lot. It was really fun. And I remembered my teacher was telling us like, okay, these are the Oscar nominated shorts. We're going to watch them and you're going to critique and analyze them. And that to me, I'm like, you just described paradise. Like, I want to do this for the rest of the semester. So I remember we watched the short called like, it was something, a short by this guy named Pez, and it was nominated for the Oscars. And I was like, it was like the coolest like animated thing I'd ever seen. That like was the catalyst for me wanting to get more into the Oscars. And also just when I saw Seth MacFarlane hosting, I thought he was such a goofball, even though if I looked at it now, I'd be like, this is really cringe.
This is the story of a man fighting to get back his woman who's been subjected to unthinkable violence. Or as Chris Brown and Rihanna call it, a date movie. And how great was Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30? Playing a woman who spends almost 12 years tracking Osama bin Laden. 12 years. The film was a triumph and also a celebration of every woman's innate ability to never, ever let anything go. How about Ben Affleck, Argo? First time I saw him with all that dark facial hair, I thought, my God, the Kardashians have finally made the jump to film. Of our next two presenters, at least one is honest about being a former exotic dancer. Please welcome Channing Tatum and Jennifer Aniston.
And I thought every host should be like that from then on. But then I was exposed to like past Oscars, and I saw like Billy Crystal and like other people hosting, and I'm like, okay, see, this is quality hosting. And then we have Jimmy Kimmel, and I'm like, okay, you're doing your thing. Good for you. I don't know how I feel about you doing it for a 4th time, but killing it, Dad.
Very
cool.
Harmless.
Yeah.
He's not going to, no one's going to be clutching their pearls, which we can talk about. I mean, it sounds to me like you would rather maybe a host that's a little less sanitized.
Yeah, like I don't mind necessarily like keeping it safe for the public, but then if you give anyone any kind of leeway, you get someone like Joe Coy. So like I feel like there's a fine line that we haven't come to yet. I feel like that was also just a balance of unpreparedness and cockiness, especially from like a minority comic. As a minority myself, I know people come from the perspective of like, okay, well, I need to lead in with that to make myself be at the top of the hierarchical scale because I'm already misrepresented by the public, which is fair. I can understand that. But then when you couple that with having an ego about it, I'm like, well, now you're losing people because then you're disregarding a large majority of the population in wanting to root for you. So I would love to see personally an LGBTQ, like, you know, BIPOC forward person. But at the same time, I'm like, this would also kind of be a detriment because they would also lead on jokes like that and not give jokes that are centered around the actual ceremony itself, which I believe is a hard line to toe. But I feel like we could get there. It would just take some time.
I think like Chris Rock did well and Ellen DeGeneres did what, you know, like when you said a combination of ego and like winging it or whatnot, like that's how I felt last night. I was like, he is not prepared to do this. Yeah. I didn't think he felt prepared at all. Like it seemed like his jokes were written, you know, within the past couple of days. And then also, yes, he was sanitized, but I felt like Jimmy Kimmel last night was also trying to be mean, but he couldn't be mean. So it was like Southern mean, like it was like bless his heart mean, you know, and he would make these little digs, which was almost like, well, because they're not in the room, let's talk about them type of thing. Like when he said the directors folded really easily, I was like, okay. And then he's like, but we don't have to worry about AI anymore. We just have to worry. I was like, we still got to worry about AI. Like everybody is worried still. What else did I wrote some of this stuff down? So before the animated Oscars, he said like, raise your hand in here if you let your kid pick this next one. And it was like, and he's like, oh, good. Like, I'm just making sure that nobody did it. I was like, well, why'd you put that out there? Like, why the fuck? Like, this is these people's top moment in their life, and you're just kind of like shitting on it right now. Stick around for the silver Oscar. Robert Downey collecting awards. Is that an acceptance speech in your pocket? Like, just saying like, fuck off the other 4 people nominated for that award. He's had all these like little digs that I was like, I love Ricky Gervais's, you know, Golden Goat. Like,
see, and I was going to bring that up. That's too far.
Yeah, when he says that, I never know if he's being satirical or just acting like a drunk.
I think he is 100% serious when he says that. It's fucking hilarious because then you have the reaction shot of Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
which is fucking hilarious. Will never not make me laugh. But you can't run a show like that. You just
No, and
can't.
I don't want Ricky Gervais to do the Academy Awards, but I want somebody better than Jimmy Kimmel. Like Jimmy
Jenny
Kimmel
Slate.
was trying to be somebody
Awkwafina.
that he wasn't last night, you know? And I think it's time to retire him. I understand why ABC does it. He has his office is right across the street. He's already being paid by ABC. But I mean, Ryan Gosling was the best part about last night. And you tell me Ryan Gosling is going to host the awards next year? Bring it on.
Emily?
Wow. Bit of a frosty hello. Didn't...
Not at all. No, I'm just happy that we can finally put this Barbenheimer rivalry behind us.
That's right. That's right. Here's Ken and Kitty. Just leaving all that fodder in the dust, guys, right? And the way this award season's turned out wasn't that much of a rivalry, so just let it go. So...
It's true. You guys are doing very well. You know, congratulations.
Thanks.
But you know, I think I kind of figured out why they call it Barbenheimer and they didn't call it Op and Barbie.
Why?
Well, I think you guys are at the tail end of that because you were riding Barbie's coattails all summer.
Thanks for Ken-splaining that to me. All right, Mr. I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
Robert
You're
Downey
kidding.
did not paint his abs on to
This
get
is insane, Emily. This has got to stop. We have to squash this. We're here to celebrate the stunt community.
massively, yes.
You're not going to get somebody who Ryan Gosling is at the top of his game right now. This is his time. It's not time for him to then turn to hosting the Oscars. Even my suggestions, Awkwafina and Jenny Slate, who I think would be like, put those two together, they would be amazing hosts. But Awkwafina's got shit she's doing and Jenny Slate's got shit she's doing. So it's hard to find somebody that's like, you know, it like I said before, it's like the cruise ship for comedians. If you're going to go host the Oscars, that means you don't have a whole lot else going on.
I agree. I honestly think Jenny Slate would be so good. Like, because she also, like, her voice acting abilities, too, would have just been perfect. Like, if she started the show off as being Marcel the Shell, I would have cried. Oh my god, I remember seeing that movie in theaters and just crying my eyes out just from her talking alone. I'm like, it's not even what she's saying. Like, she sounded so innocent.
I forget. I think it was MC. Somebody suggested the Muppets should host one year, and I just can't get that out of my mind. So the one good thing about the Oscars last night, the moving it up an hour was prime. Like that was the best decision the Oscars have made in the past 20 years.
Everyone on the West Coast was complaining about it, though.
Stop living on the West Coast, then. I mean,
You're
stop
telling that
living
to
in
the-
the past and
to
or
the
future.
Oscars.
But I mean, it's always awkward for the people over there. They usually get out at 9 p.m., so they got out at 8 p.m. It didn't stop some of them for drinking and slurring through their presentation speeches.
Facts. So Oppenheimer was the big winner last night,
Yeah.
as pretty much everybody predicted. I was hoping for a Barbie upset for Best Picture. I didn't think there was any way Chris Nolan wasn't going to win Best Director, but I really was hoping we were going to get like a Coda-esque shocking year where, you know, the females of the Academy would coalesce. And I don't know. I really liked Barbie.
I was thinking as it went along, because so Oppenheimer won 7 awards and Poor Things won 4. And I was like, could Poor Things pull this off?
I had that thought.
I know, like, but that's the thing too. It's like there's so much discourse around Barbie winning any kind of award. I'm in like 6 different cinema groups and they all have different thoughts. So my opinion can sometimes be easily swayed because I'm like, wait, but they have a good point. But then they also have a good point. That's what I love about cinema, because like someone has a good like idea or some kind of like point to it, but I'm like, I don't know, because if you look at it objectively from an outside perspective, like how would it really pan out? As someone who also likes Barbie, I really, wanted them to have more nominations. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, this is also a quote. If you look at it from an outside perspective, it is a blockbuster film. It wasn't marketed to be like high art, but as cinephiles, as people who know like Noah Baumbach's work and Greta Gerwig's work, we see it as like having this already artful style and aesthetic like put into it.
I mean, having Barbie say, hey, do you guys ever think about death?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's high art, but it certainly elevated the movie immediately for me from that point on.
Yeah, to have like even like surface level satire or like that kind of acknowledgement, especially making Barbie like PG-13 was honestly a big step I didn't think that they would do, especially with Mattel's branding and them giving them the okay on that. Like, because movies aren't even rated G anymore. They're just like PG now, which I don't know if you both have noticed that. I haven't seen a G-rated film like from the MPAA in so long, and some people have also talked about that. But when I saw that Barbie was rated PG-13, I was actually quite surprised because I thought, okay, what are they going to say? Like, ass? Like, that's fun. But like, I found that to be very interesting because when people saw that like even America was nominated and Ryan was nominated, but not Margot and Greta, people were more upset because they're like, well, they kind of created the project, which I can understand. But at the same time, like, to me, it's not personally not surprising that Ryan got the nomination because like he was like plastered everywhere and like he's like, I guess it's kind of irony because people are like, well, this is a woman-led film and he's the man being nominated. I'm like, I can also see that. That's where the perspectives are like colliding here, if that makes sense. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Spro has some strong thought. He agrees with that sentiment, right, Spro?
Yeah. When everybody was walking out of Barbie, they just talked about how Ryan Gosling stole the show. So the fact that he was the one nominated, like, yeah. And even last night, he stole the Oscars for me. Ryan Gosling is a damn treasure. And really, this is just a personal sentiment. I'm sure there's a good reason. But did they explain, like, why his wife, Eva Mendes, wasn't there?
She was at home with the kids.
You can't get a babysitter the night of the Oscars? Like,
oh, yeah, they did say that.
I was like,
she's like, you're not beating Robert Downey Jr., so I'll just stay home. I'm a huge fan of Greta Gerwig. I loved Lady Bird and Little Women. That and The Irishman were my two favorite movies from 2019. So I was bummed that I understand why she didn't get a nomination for direction. That's kind of why I wanted her Barbie to win Best Picture, because then she would have gotten some recognition and Margot would have gotten some recognition because you knew they weren't going to win that screenplay award.
See, that upset me. That was the upset of the night for me because I didn't realize American Fiction I loved until the third act. And then when it got meta, it got sloppy for me. But I will say I really liked Cord's speech. Like his speech was probably one of the better ones of the night. So I'm glad that he won so we could get that. But I was kind of dismayed that Barbie did not get adapted screenplay.
I've been talking a lot about how many people passed on this movie and discussing it. And I worry that sometimes sounds vindictive, and I don't want to be vindictive. I'm not a vindictive person anymore. I've worked very hard to not be vindictive anymore. And it's more a plea. It's a plea to acknowledge and recognize that there are so many people out there who want the opportunity that I was given. And this is I understand that I only got 6 seconds, please. I understand that this is a risk-averse industry. I get it. But $200 million movies are also a risk, you know? And it doesn't always work out, but you take the risk anyway. And instead of making one $200 million movie, try making 20 $10 million movies. Or 50, right? 50 $4 million movies. Like you can, there are so many people. I just feel so much joy being here. I felt so much joy making this movie, and I want other people to experience that joy. And they are out there. I promise you. The next Martin Scorsese's out there. The next Greta's out there. Both Gretas. The next Christopher Nolan's out there. I promise you. They just want a shot, and we can give them one. And this has changed my life. Thank you all who worked on this movie for trusting a 40-year-old black guy who'd never directed anything before. It has changed my life. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you so much.
I think Greta is going to win something.
For sure.
It's almost inevitable that she's going to make something that'll get her a nomination for Best Director or the Oscar. So I'm okay if it's not Barbie.
It should not be for Barbie.
Megan, did you like Oppenheimer?
Yeah, so when I first saw it, I fell asleep because I was watching it on Barbenheimer Day. And, you know, because Barbie isn't super long, but then to go from that to, watching Oppenheimer, which is like 3 hours long, and I had a 10:30 p.m. screening. So I know that's already way past your bedtime, but not mine.
A couple hours past.
It's crazy to me. That's so bizarre. So,
someday you'll be like, oh, I can't wait to go to bed. It's going to be great.
Oh God, I will lose my soul by that point. Absolutely not. But So when I was watching Oppenheimer, I literally like fell asleep, and I was with someone else like at the time, and we were both watching the movie, and like I remembered not even being able to focus on the film because I was just focused on like them also having a good time, and they were also falling asleep, and I was like, oh no, this is so not what I wanted, and like I felt so bad because like we both wasted money just falling asleep there, and I'm like and we watched it in IMAX too, so I'm like, this is time and money we're never getting back.
Ah, that sucks.
Yeah, so I did end up rewatching it, but there were parts of the film where I was like, this is kind of appropriating my culture. I don't necessarily like that. Like, there was the point, you know when him and Florence Pugh are like fucking essentially?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That scene, he's reading out of the Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
So that's like like it's a very sacred piece of traditional like Indian like literature and script. So it's considered to be not something to be tampered with religiously in any way. So the fact that like Christopher Nolan like kept that in and made Florence make it like aestheticized in like a sexual way, like people were kind of up in arms, especially within my culture. Like, because I remember the person that I was with, they were like, oh, this is kind of hot. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't agree with that because this is my culture, but you do you. But I remember we were watching like the film, and when that happened, I was like, I can already hear people like trying to say something about this. And then I went online the next day because I follow this page called The Juggernaut, and they post like pop culture, like Indian news, especially with like Indians coming out in like Western cinema and like films nowadays. So when that happened, I was kind of like waiting for people to talk about it. And then when they were talking about it, I'm like, okay, it threw me off so much because I couldn't even focus on the actual film. And I'm like, why am I focusing on this and not the meat of the film? I liked the film overall. I feel like there were parts that could have been cut out, obviously. I feel like there were also people saying like it was just a big tease until the third act. But like that is also like if you're not paying attention to the dialogue and like the more substantive part of that section of the film. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Honestly, I haven't loved anything he's done since Inception. But Oppenheimer, I love Cillian Murphy. I love Emily Blunt. I mean, I like everybody in that movie except Matt Damon. But
I need to know your thoughts on that. Why do you not like Matt Damon? What did he do to you?
He didn't do it. He didn't do anything to me. I think he irritates me. That's all.
It was weird that he wasn't there last night.
Yeah, which I didn't even notice until you pointed that out.
Him and Jimmy Kimmel. He's always around when Jimmy Kimmel is, and then he's in the movie that's sweeping the awards.
I guess long and short of it, I liked it. I didn't love it. I see why it won Best Picture. I wouldn't have cast my vote for it.
I agree, honestly.
But can you stomach it as the...
I can stomach it, yeah. Like I said, I see why it won. Wouldn't have been my pick. Not my Best Picture.
Did you like it, bro?
I did. Like, I walked out of it. So I'm more of a Nolan hater. I did not like the script of Inception. Memento, I think, is the best thing that he's done. Interstellar, after reading the script, I thought should have been a limited series. I didn't like Tenet. I didn't like Dunkirk. So when I walked out of Oppenheimer, I walked out and was like, you know what? That's probably his masterpiece. I don't think he's going to make anything better than Oppenheimer. So if this is his year, it makes sense because he is gifted. I think he just rushes things too much. I think Inception needed another draft of its script, and Tenet as well seemed like it was rushed out for COVID, and he wanted to see how it would do in the theaters, you know, but there was some sloppiness to it. And Interstellar was too like Interstellar was a great idea. It had great visuals. Everything about it was good, except for the fact that I think it couldn't have been longer because it was already too long. But if he cut the planets up into episodes, I think that would have been a great 4 to 5 limited series, you know, but not as a movie. Not as a movie.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. I think you should pitch that, honestly. Like, I'm pretty sure network would eat that up because like everything has like its own spin-off or like series now. Mm-hmm. So like that would vibe well with a lot of like Nolan lovers or even just like Nolan like average standards, I guess. Like, because like I know you're a Nolan hater, but like people like as from a Nolan hater perspective, like maybe people would like that too because it's different and then maybe it wouldn't be attached to him.
And I wouldn't say like Nolan because I will see whatever he puts out in the theater. He's one that will get me to the theater. I think with Scorsese, like, I'm done. And I feel bad for saying that in Lee's presence, but he
is the greatest living American filmmaker.
Go.
And when he dies, he'll be one of the greatest American filmmakers.
We live in
of all
a
time.
country that goes, oh my gosh, you know this great thing that they did 30 years ago? Let's keep him on that pedestal. Spielberg is a great director in the 20th century, but 21st century directing, Spielberg's not there.
Yeah, Spro adopts the "What have you done for us lately?"
Yeah.
I get it though. I mean, I don't know. My dad really loves Spielberg, so I feel like if you said that to him, he would be up in arms because like all he thinks about is like he's like, oh, but Jurassic Park and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but you're thinking of films back then,
20th century, 20th century Spielberg, phenomenal. 21st century Spielberg, West Side Story,
opposite of phenomenal. West Side Story.
Did you see The Fablemans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spro gets hung up on a lot of things. He didn't like when Michelle Williams was cooking, and clearly not, because she clearly wasn't cooking anything. It was just, she was just scraping around in a pan. He's like, those eggs weren't real. It's like, that's a weird thing to get hung up on.
But we brought it up. Who was on that episode? Kyle?
Yeah.
I was like, do you remember when she's serving breakfast? And he's like, yeah, obviously she didn't use that pan. And I was like, that's one of those things like you would think Spielberg would catch. Like, hey, that's going to bump me the fuck out of this movie. And it did, because those were cold ass potatoes she was serving her kids for
no
breakfast.
CGI steam coming off of those potatoes.
Like, do something. Ridley Scott is another one. Ridley Scott used to pay attention to every detail in his movies. And now Napoleon speaks with a Los Angeles accent.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Napoleon.
Like these great directors, no, not anymore.
That's a hot take though. I'm surprised actually.
I still have reverence for some of these men and the joys that they once gave me. I won't ever forget.
Sure.
How'd you feel about Emma Stone taking her second statuette?
I literally, oh my god. Okay, so there was this like pop-up thing in New York. It was really funny. It was called like the Salon of Seduction. It was basically like they provided like a 3-course like appetizer like show thing. So it was essentially like 2 girls in this like secluded circular room, and they were like dancing, and it was very like in Yorgos style choreography, and they had like smoke, and it was like a very pretty like show thing, and it had like strobe effects, and everyone was standing in a circle, and we had like little dividers, and they gave us like a prefix like menu. They would tell you like act 1, and then they would dance, and then they would give you like a piece of food or like a drink. So in the beginning, they gave us like a shot of something. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like limoncello or something. Second thing was like act 2, and then they gave us like an oyster, and then like a real oyster. And I can tell you don't like oysters. Do you not like oysters?
I love oysters.
I don't like limoncello.
No, that's fair. But and then like the ending bit, they gave us like this like mascarpone thing. It was basically just like a handful of whipped cream, in my opinion. Like it wasn't anything special, but it was like a free experience. Like I didn't have to pay for any of this. So at the very end, they like took your photo, and it was in like this poor things like pop-up lens. They gave us like sunglasses and postcards. Like it was a whole thing. And I remember like I was doing PA work for a short film, and I was wearing the sunglasses, and I'm like, wow, it's so bright out. I can't believe how bright it is out here. And they're like, nice sunglasses. I'm like, oh my god, you noticed? Thanks. Like,
are they the goofy ones that Emma Stone wears when she's wandering around Lisbon?
they do look like the
little
black
tiny, yeah.
yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah, so I was basically so excited to see the film. Like this was essentially a marketing stunt for like people to get excited to see the film. Yeah, so I'm a sucker for things like that. So when I saw that they were doing that, and then when I saw the film, I brought this tote bag. I wore the sunglasses even though it was like dark out. Like my friend and I, we were ready to see the film, and we were making jokes the entire time. And then when the film ended, we were both like I felt like I had the moment I had when I was 6 years old where I'm like, this is cinema. I want to watch things like this all the time. I related a lot to her character in terms of like how she navigated the world socially. Because we all know that like, you know, she's essentially a baby or like a fetus in like a grown woman's body. Like, so we see her like kind of advance in society, but she still also has preconceived childlike notions where she's like, do I have to say this tastes good? And like she spits out the food, or she's like, I must go punch that baby. I'm like, a baby wouldn't necessarily necessarily have thoughts like that, but because you're advanced a little bit in society now, you're like, well, you know what sensory things are, so you know what's irritating you. So I get that evolution bit, but things like that I personally really relate to, because like I was never really good at social cues when I was like growing up, and I never understood why people would say certain things. I'm like, well, why don't you just say what's on your mind, but also say it tastefully so you don't get in trouble for it, because I'm also a very sensitive person, so it kind of like counteracts it where I'm like, well, say what you mean, but also say it nicely, because people bruise easily. So that's what I picked up on in the film, and that kind of, I don't want to say if it's satire, but like that message and like talking about how important it is to be culturally in the know and advanced, but also know when it's appropriate to be yourself and stand up for what you want and what you like. Because Bella did have that moment where she's standing up at the table and she's explaining like how she feels, and I'm like, I really resonated with that the most, because I'm like, okay, she like her body, she's standing up straight, she's like coming in guns a-blazing, like she wasn't holding back the entire film, but there you can really feel her raw anger and her real truth, especially like the scenes with Duncan where she is still being herself, but she's more naive in that sense, but because she's presented with someone new, it's like a whole new world to her. So I really like that aspect of her character, and seeing Emma portray that was otherworldly, because I know she also did The Favorite with Yorgos, so seeing how different those two performances were, I'm like, this is not the same person.
Even her performance in La La Land is like night and day from this one, let alone her previous work with Yorgos. That movie, I could go over and over in my head, which I have been. I'm trying not to talk about it because every time I think I've figured out a definitive statement, something comes in to intersect it. You could think about that movie until you go mad, is the way I feel about it. Because there's the immediate criticisms you want to lob at it, the kind of perverted nature of it. And then you try to maybe not justify it, but try to figure out why. Okay, so why have they chosen to make this character so sexually charged? Is this a biological comment on biology? And it just on and on and on and on and on. I could think about this movie. I really think you're going to see in the coming years a lot of discourse written about that movie. The only criticism that I will maintain, I didn't love the look of it. After a while, the skies that were like, looked like somebody did it in fucking Photoshop. I'm like, okay, all right.
Hard to disagree with you there. When it won production design.
Well, you love Moulin Rouge too, so.
Yeah.
You know what would have been cool? If as the world stopped seeming like such a magical place to her, if it would have normalized. You know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe you should direct your own poor things.
See? This is why I'm trying not to make definitive statements, because it's clearly a good movie. I'll say one final thing. Was there a better role for a woman? A juicier role, a more thought-provoking role for a woman in 2023 than Bella? I think the closest you come as far as good roles for women are concerned was Anatomy of a Fall. I think that's the second most interesting female character. I'm happy with Emma Stone. I would have also been happy with Sandra Huller. And I was high on Lily Gladstone, and I started kind of coming away from Lily after seeing Poor Things and seeing Anatomy of a Fall and being like, these are better roles and give the actors more to do. Lily Gladstone was just throwing up.
I'm still hopped on Natalie Portman. And I really liked Carey Mulligan. Carey Mulligan was the only thing I liked about Maestro. I felt almost anxiety for Bradley Cooper. Like, when it first all came out, I did not like Bradley Cooper when he was getting all these nominations. Like, I was like, Maestro doesn't deserve this. And then Variety, I think, like, trashed Bradley Cooper and said, nobody wants an Oscar more than Bradley Cooper, and like put his like face there. And I was like, oh, that's kind of mean. And then to see him last night at the Oscars with his mom, and he had like the sparkle in his eye and everything, I started feeling like horrible because one, I agreed with I was like, I don't think he should be nominated for these Oscars. And then to see him in the stands and watch him being shut out from everything with his mom there, like I was like, feel really bad for Bradley Cooper right now. And I should. The man's gorgeous. He has everything that he could possibly want. So like kudos to him and his life. But I really felt bad for Bradley Cooper last night.
I mean, honestly, him bringing his mom kind of reminded me of Hugh Jackman. He also brings his mom to a lot of things, like a taping of like the Graham Norton show. There was a bunch of things like that just reminded me so much of him. I don't know if that was like intentional, him bringing his mom like that. But now that you pointed out, I'm like, that's so obvious that he wanted that kind of for himself. He's like, look, mom, I'm gonna win. Like, kind of like a little kid, like pulling on a mom's apron type moment. Like, that's gonna be me. And then it doesn't happen. He's like, her mind.
Or he was just like, hey, this is my opportunity to take my mom to the Oscars. He couldn't have been so deluded that he thought he was going to win anything.
I don't think it was delusion. Maybe like, I don't know, like having a sparkly eye, like you said. I can understand.
Hopeful.
Yeah, exactly. A ceremony like that is just so, it's glamorous in itself. So even then, like wanting to share that with someone else, like how Timothée Chalamet brings his mom to something like that, for example, like she's not being nominated, but she's watching her son like enjoy something, which is like something really special, which I've always
I don't know. I get Norman Bates vibes.
From Timothy?
Just from anybody who brings their
you
mother.
cannot slander my boy like that. We're not having this conversation.
No.
Absolutely not.
Anybody who takes their mother someplace, it's like,
okay.
Cool, love your mom and everything, but showing up there with your mom gives Norman Bates vibes to me. Because I
would take my mom now if I had to go anywhere.
I think of the first person that I ever saw do that, which was Kevin Spacey.
You can't like, oh, you took your mom. You must lay drunken on 14-year-old boys.
Norman Bates. We talked about one young star who won her second Oscar. Let's talk about the pop star who won her second Oscar last night with her brother Phineas. That would be Billie Eilish. Last night, Eilish and her brother sounded like shit for the first, like something was going on with the sound.
Because I feel like also they made the mic really high up, and she's not the tallest person in the world, so I feel like she was like standing already on like her shoes and then to like reach the mic. Like she kept looking back at Phineas, and I'm like, I don't know if this is like a duo brother-sister moment or just like a help me, I'm failing right now, or like I'm scared that something will happen. Even when they started, I know that it was intentional because like she was supposed to be like a revolving doll, I guess, because like she was facing the audience and then turns. I was like, okay, I like that they're kind of trying to make this doll-esque, but even then it's like you only get a minute and a half, maybe two, to play the song, because like even with other people like Becky G and like the indigenous tribe that played the song later on, like all of those performances were like at max 2 minutes. So when you have such a short time just to fit all of that in, I'm like, if you're gonna make her spin, do it a little bit quicker, because like people want to see her face. And I also thought it was very interesting how they put I don't know if the orchestra is usually up top like that, but when I saw that, I'm like, okay, I like how they're more front and center this time. But I also low-key felt like they were so in the back, and like when they would cut the camera to them, I'm like, I don't think they're ready to be on camera right now. Like they look like they're like still like tuning up, or like they're just getting ready to start playing again. I don't know if either of you like noticed that.
I didn't pick up on that. I guess I was embarrassed. I'm often embarrassed by the live performances. Like I end up feeling that sense of Gerstenflauf. There's a German word for it, where you feel embarrassed for someone else's embarrassment. And her looking back at her brother was clearly her being like, this feels off. Because it sounded bad. But I was happy to see her win. The song's very special to me, and it just elevated so many moments in Barbie.
Yeah.
Spro hates this song. Spro?
William Eyelash, iconic. I like that Billie won, and I could tell she was more elated by the fact that Ariana Grande was presenting the award to her. But like, I could tell Billie was very surprised, which I'm not surprised about because she won already for No Time to Die. So she already has her name cemented into the Academy, so I wasn't surprised that she won. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Lyrically, I feel like the song like is nice, but there are points like I don't like some lines where she's like, "Don't tell my boyfriend." I'm like,
same, stupid.
Thank you. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, to me, I'm like, this is like pop Billie versus like, you know, contemporary or like, you know, more subdued Billie that they're just mixing here. I get what they're trying to do, but I'm like, this isn't hitting the mark that you want it to. But because little tiny white girls are going to listen to this song, they're going to be like, oh my God, it's so great. So I'm like, I get it. Or white men are going to listen to the song and be like, oh my God, this is so great. So I get it. That's
it's all
fine.
right. I feel like a tiny white girl sometimes.
As you should, man. As you should.
I don't know that she deserved for No Time to Die, but I'm happy that she won for this one.
It's more deserving.
Agreed. So that's 15 nominations for songwriter Diane Warren.
Wow.
No competitive wins. She won an honorary award last year, but no competitive wins. She was the one that wrote the song from Flamin' Hot.
The one that Becky G performed, yeah.
Great song.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's never won a competitive Oscar. 15 nominations.
And you brought up Ariana Grande. Mm-hmm. I was getting Brittany Murphy vibes. And that was kind of freaking me out a little bit. I was like, oh.
I mean, do you know about the infidelity thing? Because girls got drama.
Doesn't she fall in love with everybody that she works with? She's like Marilyn Monroe in that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, she fell in love with the guy who plays SpongeBob on Broadway, and he kind of looks like her brother. So
He's a goobery looking dude. Like, what a lucky guy that he gets to go home at night with her.
Oh my god.
Pete Davidson's a goofy looking dude.
So she has this major crush on Jim Carrey, which I understand because I also have a crush on Jim Carrey. But like, her latest album is called Eternal Sunshine. It's like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. She literally has a music video where her and Evan Peters from American Horror Story are like, she's supposed to be like the Clementine and he's supposed to be her Joel.
I've never seen that.
I think it just came out. Like, it's very recent because I saw stills of it last night on, because like I get her Stan accounts like in my For You page. I don't know why, because I don't even like her like that. But her stuff comes into my feed, and I saw him saying like, there was time, or like and then, like some iconic lines from the film, and I'm like, wait, this is cute. I thought you were just playing this up because you like Jim Carrey. I didn't think you actually liked the film, but okay, I'll give you points. You're trying. When I saw that, I was like, there's no way she titled her album Eternal Sunshine and then also gave the nod to Jim Carrey, because she was also featured in his show Kidding that came out like years ago. And she wrote out this long post and she took a photo with him and she's like, this is my idol. I love Jim Carrey. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm like, wait, this is really cute.
Feels like a strange idol for her to have chosen.
This is making me like Ariana Grande so much more, though. I'm like,
I know, right?
Every time she releases a song, I hear it because my wife likes her.
I didn't like her at the beginning with the 99 Problems, and you know, enunciating is not one of them. Like it was. I was like, I can't do it with this girl.
Her little homage where she sampled Sound of Music. You like my hair? Gee, thanks. Just bought it. That's one of my wife's favorite lines. Just
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when I started warming up to her. But that first song, I was like,
When I saw her last night, I'm like, I don't know why you're here. I understand it's because like you're a musician and you're presenting the award, but at the same time, I'm like, you couldn't get anyone else, really.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because the presenters, my first thought about that was presenters are like B talent A-list celebrities that will never see the stage. So it's almost cruel to be like, hey, The Rock, do you want to present on the Oscars?
I was just going to say, I thought The Rock and Bad Bunny were hilarious.
I also had a problem with the 5 past winners coming out to talk really scripted to people that they probably didn't meet, maybe didn't even see the movie. Forrest Whitaker was painful to watch last night. And I like Forrest Whitaker, but I was like, when we were talking earlier, I didn't necessarily realize that they cut all the songs short. And I was like, man, they should have kept the songs the appropriate length and just had one presenter coming out, because that took a long time.
That's so true.
They want to put more faces up there. They want more celebrities up there. I see what they're trying to do.
Well, that's why, like, before every commercial break, they're like, next up is Ryan Gosling was coming up next in every single commercial break. And then don't forget, we got Ryan Gosling. It's like, all right, eventually he'll be here. And then when Al Pacino came out at the end of last night's Oscars, I was like, I wish it was Jack Nicholson.
I know. Oh my god, that would have been amazing. Yo.
I want Jack back. I don't care like in what form. If he can walk, like don't wheel him out like Kirk Douglas or whatever, but like have him up in the balcony, right? Like he doesn't have to say anything or whatnot. Just be like, Jack's here, guys. And I'll be like, okay, we're at the fucking Oscars now.
Exactly.
That's all I need.
Mm-hmm. Just his presence.
Just his presence.
That's so comforting. I found that interesting also because like they took away, like, I don't know if they were going to do it this year, but like the lifetime Oscar achievement thing, what did they usually do? Like when they honor like the veteran actor or like director, like my mom pointed that out, that they didn't have that. And like then Jessica Lange came out to present like Carey Mulligan, like I'm honored to like be in your presence. My mom was like, she's bowing to her, shouldn't it be the other way around? I'm like, that's a fair point too, because I feel like if they were going to do it, they should have had a hand in writing this, or at least like kind of met the person, because I feel like you're right, it does seem a bit disingenuous, because it's like you're writing this to someone you might not even know, and that can be also very awkward. So
it did produce some good moments. I thought Michelle Yeoh introducing Sandra Huller and being like, and to this point I still don't know if she did it. I like that. That was cool.
Exactly, that was cute. That's the other thing too. I feel like Sandra like was snubbed a lot because like she had double the chances of like being more in the limelight. When the camera would focus on her, she wouldn't be like, oh, but like this is my moment. Like she was very like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and take it in. But like Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest, like the fact that you were in 2 foreign language films as a woman, as someone who can speak multiple languages, as someone who's like becoming more of the face of cinema, like that's awesome. When I saw that, I'm like, okay, this is a flex. Like you should be in more stuff like known out in the world. Like I honestly thought that was like a very big snub for her.
That would go against your Emma Stone.
I know, that's the thing, because I'm like, I want everyone to win. That's always why I hate award shows, because I'm like, I want all of y'all to have the same spotlight.
There haven't been too many ties. We talked about one on the show a bunch of episodes ago where Barbara Streisand won and tied with Katharine Hepburn. But I was really kind of like, wouldn't that be dope if there was a 2-way tie between Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone? And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, wouldn't it be dope if it was a 3-way tie between both the Stones and Sandra Huller?
And that's one of those. So there's people that produce great work in the same year. And obviously, Sandra Huller didn't do Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest at the exact same time. But to have a body of work like that reminds me of Amy Adams when she came out with Arrival and Nocturnal Animals in the same year. And it was like, that was amazing. Then you, going back to Jim Carrey, the same year doing The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Dumb and Dumber. Like, to have that trifecta in the same year, it's kind of like, it could be an honorary Oscar or whatnot, just being like, that was a great year for the work that you put in. Especially, they're both nominated for Best Picture. And they pointed it out on the stage like, girl did good work this year, you know? Yeah. But then she doesn't win anything and has to endure a German joke by Jimmy Kimmel.
How long do you think it's going to be before Wes Anderson puts Sandra Huller in his next movie?
The contract's on the fax machine. You know?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, he didn't even show up last night, and wasn't that his first win? Or
yep.
Yeah,
that pisses me off too.
That he didn't show up.
Yeah,
I think he was almost probably dead on. That he's out there creating a set somewhere and just like, I can't get there. Matt Damon not being there pissed me off more.
That's hilarious, though. Like, do you know why he didn't show? Did they say anything? I don't know.
They didn't. When Nolan gave his acceptance speech for Best Director, he thanked Damon first. And I was like, God damn, Nolan.
Well, I do know that Damon said that he's on an unofficial hiatus. I don't know why, but he told his wife, like, I'm not answering the phone anymore. I'm here with you. Maybe just to be a father and a husband. I don't know. But he did.
Bullshit. All of it.
This is conjecture. What he did say was, I did tell my wife, if Chris Nolan calls, I'm not on hiatus anymore. So
Nolan needs to stop trying to make Damon happen, because Damon sticks out of his movies like a sore thumb. Interstellar and Oppenheimer.
Oh, it sounds like there's more to come. If he thanked him first, they're best buddies.
I feel like him and Wes and Hayao Miyazaki not showing up. Like, I wanted Hayao to be up there because I showed my mom Spirited Away. I'm like, look, you get to see the director, and he's not even there. I'm like, never mind, you don't get to see him. So
what
sad.
State is he in?
Mentally or physically?
I don't think he's not in an American state. He's in Japan.
No, I'm pretty sure he's in Japan. Yeah, because
isn't he old?
He's very old.
80 something. No,
maybe he can't travel. I don't know.
I mean,
no live feeds. I mean, that's another thing they used to do, where like Wes Anderson would be on set being like, "Thank you for this, guys."
Yeah.
Technologically speaking, one gripe that I had against the Oscars last night is we should be at that point now where people can speak their native language and we could subtitle at the bottom of the screen. The creators of Godzilla -1 should not have struggled with English for us. They should be able to speak in Japanese, and it just comes naturally at the bottom of the screen. This technology has to exist.
Bong Joon-ho did the same thing. Some of his acceptance speech was in English, but then he spoke Korean at the end, and it's like, I want to know what the fuck he's saying.
Didn't he have an interpreter, or am I wrong?
Yeah, he might have.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think he did.
Because I also feel like if for Coda, also the people who spoke who did sign language, didn't they also, correct me if I'm wrong, had interpreters also? Because like they have people like explaining the sign language.
I think
it was
so,
voiceovered. Yeah. I think they had like like the voice of God,
somebody with a mic and backstage.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. I thought it was either that or then someone like standing off to the side. But like I agree. Like I was struggling struggling to understand the Godzilla -1 people. I thought there were efforts to come up like with the Godzilla like toys. That was cute, but I'm like, I really wish you had more of a moment here, because also like the Academy was being kind of dickish by like starting to play the music, and I'm like, I know he's like trying his best. He just like started speaking, like in my mind. So like if they had like a chance to give them like an interpreter or like someone else who could speak like on the behalf, if they're not gonna have someone like provide translation or subtitles, like they should have had that. Like that's like kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah, I think it's just poor planning. I think they just need a spro to be like, hey, we should fucking have this. I think the minute somebody suggests it, they'll be like, you're right, we should fucking have that.
Well, we have random ass listeners in Los Angeles. You never know.
You don't even need to hire somebody at this point. All you need is
AI.
Oh my god. Literally, also to go back really quickly to when Jimmy said that, was it towards the beginning of the show when he mentioned like the AI joke? I literally thought that was like not only in poor taste, but like poor knowledge, because like this also does affect you in many ways. So like, I don't know if he wrote that, because like I saw the list of writers. There were like 13 writers at the end of the credits. I'm like, this is heart-stopping. But when I saw this, I'm like, did you even think about the fact that like you were gonna say that? Because I don't know how much time they have to like, if they read the teleprompter ahead of time or they just find out the day of, like the hosts. So like when he read that, I'm like, do you really mean that? Or like, are you just saying that because someone wrote it for you?
Right. And it's still so controversial, the whole strike and the deals that were made. You know, like the deals helped out a lot at the top, not necessarily a trickle down kind of philosophy. There's a lot of people that I talk to that are not necessarily happy with the deals put in place. So the fact that he was bringing it up, making definitive statements like, you guys do not have to worry about AI or anything like that. I was like, everybody in the country has to worry about artificial intelligence and robots now, and our jobs being stolen, because everybody at the top are loving what AI can do for them and the profit line.
Exactly. Plus, especially, I mean, Lee, not to make you sad, but like kids are using it a lot for like homework and stuff, and like
it's pretty obvious. I was an English teacher, and I'm like, yeah, you didn't write all of these complex sentences with correctly used modifiers and
but they're
participles.
saying teachers are now using AI to help grade their papers. Like everybody's just going to use AI, and we're all just going to be dumber.
We have too many shortcuts now.
I always say Wall-E. We're just going more and more toward Wall-E, and people bring up that Mike Judge film, Idiocracy. But Wall-E, to me, there was a video on TikTok the other day of a guy who ordered food at a McDonald's and got it and was on one of the suitcases that was like a mini car, a suitcase scooter thing, and he had the Apple goggles on or whatever. It took me right back to the motorized chairs with the screens right in front of them in Wall-E, and I was like, that's our future. This is going to suck.
Do not pity the dead. Pity the living. And above all those who live without love.
A real loser is somebody that's so afraid of not winning, they don't even try.
Some of the camera angles were weird. To me, it stood out with the in memoriam. I felt like I had the worst seats in the house when they were showing. I was like, I can't see the screen. Like, who are we honoring? And then they were like, we're going to have a ballet performance. The song of like, it's time to say goodbye. The whole thing was weird. That was like the weirdest segment.
I agree. Like having the contemporary dancing, like I've danced contemporary. So like, I understand like what they were trying to go for. People don't usually do it with like an in memoriam thing, because that's like it's a sad thing. Like people passed, like especially when Matthew Perry's name came up, like a lot of people I know were feeling something about that. So when you have that coupled with people singing beautifully and in like an operatic state, and then having everyone like dance contemporary, I'm like, even my mom was like, this is a little distasteful. And I'm like, yeah, like it's also visually distracting because you don't know what to pay attention to. And then at the very end, they just had name. I'm like, whoa, okay. I understand it's meant for like the people at the event, because they are all sitting in different places. But like for us as an audience, we're like, where are I supposed to go? So I feel like that could have been coordinated a little bit better. So I agree with you on that.
Well, it's also weird that because they always show you the producers at the beginning, or not at the beginning, but before the show, and they're like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to put our stamp on it. Like, I feel like we just need to figure out a way to honor the dead the same way every year, because people are trying to be like fancy about it or like put on their own stamp of honoring the dead. Like, it's a weird thing. And then this year, like, I didn't like the song choice. I didn't like the dancers. I didn't like the camera being so far back that I could barely see who was on the screen. And then the last thing, when they put people on the pillars were green. And so it reminded me of Star Trek. And then I was like, so we're just beaming these people up to heaven. Like, it was so off-putting. I was like, that was not well done at all as far as like the show was concerned. But I think the cool thing about how the screenplays were written this year was in the action lines. And when they were showing off the scripts, they were just showing like the dialogues, like they were making it focused. The Academy Awards was so actor focused last night. Like, oh, this is how they said the dialogue. I didn't realize it until recently, but Christopher Nolan wrote Oppenheimer in first person. All the action lines has it saying, and then he looks at me, like I walk toward Einstein. Like, it's all written from Oppenheimer's point of view. The way that Greta Gerwig wrote Barbie, everybody's got their name. It says Barbie, Margot Robbie, Ken, Ryan Gosling. That was interesting. So they're taking new and different approaches in their writing of the scripts, and they didn't show that at all last night.
That's an interesting observation you caught on there, because my mom noticed this too, how like they put like the most eye-catching piece of dialogue or like what they think could have been like that, and then having like that be coupled with like the action or like the line being spoken right afterwards, which I also thought was nice. Also, like how they typed it in like the script like type format, like I thought that was really cute, like how they kind of like wanted to make it a little more, have a little flair to it.
If it wasn't for Spro, I would not have ever read any scripts. Yeah, if it wasn't for him insisting that we do the screenplay Oscar episodes. But it's interesting because there is such a prescriptive way of writing it. Same way with essay writing, kids would be like, why do I have to repeat my topic sentence in different words at the end of? I'm like, because it's just the fucking way it's done, man. Get good at this and then you can innovate and be interesting, but you have to learn and I'm sitting here like talking with Spro about scripts and he's like, yeah, no, it's best if you shouldn't have a line that's only one word. I'm like, why? It looks ugly.
Well, it just takes up so much space. You got to be economical with your space.
Economical with your space. That's right.
But the thing about Nolan is Nolan learned all the rules, and he is one, like, read Memento. Memento is half regular type and half bold print based off of what's going on. I think bold print is everything working backwards in the movie, but he writes in such a way. So Oppenheimer being first person, I was like, makes sense. That dude knows the rules and he breaks them in a way that helps the reader ingest them. James Cameron is a phenomenal writer. Phenomenal. Quentin Tarantino is a really good writer, but sometimes what they put out, not great.
What? You didn't like Avatar 2? That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sad that James Cameron is so invested in this Avatar world, because all of his projects were wildly different. And now it's like, great. Let's keep going with this.
I think because he's invested so much money into it that he's kind of like sunk himself in, I guess.
Well, and Disney, yeah.
Plus, it's about the technology for him at this point.
That too.
But was there anything in Avatar 2 that, like, I guess the water features that he's experiencing or like experimenting with now? Because Avatar 2
take his word for it when he's like, oh, it couldn't be made. Now it can be made because we've made these cameras and these advancements. It's like, okay.
That's why, like, Avatar 4 or 5, that's going to be all Googleware. It's going to be
we're going to sit in the theater and the movie's going to take place around us.
There's going to be no theaters at that point.
They're
all closed down.
I can't think about that. There's like this nonprofit theater that's like 40 minutes from the house, and like they have all different types of things. Like they do like sensory friendly screenings. They have like bring your own baby screenings, so like you can like kind of have like a way to like take care of your kids and let them run around but also enjoy a film, which like I really kind of like, even though I don't like the idea of like little kids screaming in a movie theater. I understand when you put an environment for that, I'm like, that's nice. So like even the idea of that being taken away would like break my heart, because like I do like immersive film experiences, like, you know, when they do like the 4D, like, oh, but we're gonna make the theater smell like the movie or like feel this way. Like I think
smell-o-vision.
Yeah, exactly. Like Like, I think those are interesting, but like, just to picture like us being submerged in water watching like Avatar 3 or 4 is like kind of spooky. Like,
It'd be pretty rad. I would give it a shot. But it,
4D theater.
it's like anything. I mean, when 3D started making its comeback, it was super impressive in Avatar and in small doses. But then everything was 3D and it kind of is oversaturated. And I'm like, oh, let's just go back to 2D. I'm good on 3D for a little while.
No, that's so
That's
weird.
just pessimistic me talking. But optimist me last night got tickled because they did that whole thing about stunts. And I was like, are they about to announce that we're going to have a stunt award? And then they went, so to the stunt people, we salute you. And I was like, but you won't award them. You won't award them. You're just going to salute. It's like the laziest fucking, like, because I was getting, every time I see Buster Keaton stunts, I'm like, that dude, man, like, I'm going to have a whole little thing over the summer just showing my students Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton movies and being like, that's him. He could have died when that side of the house fell. They had to time the window just correct.
Or just like the cute little tricks that they would do, the forced perspective to make it look like Chaplin was roller skating and then almost fell. You know what clip I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the balcony scene.
Yeah, just little things like that where it's like you don't need super duper expensive cameras to make something that looks just, you got to be clever.
No, I agree. I'm so glad you brought that up because like when Jimmy said like, well, we're not bringing this year, but next year we're going to bring like the casting award. I'm like, see, my guy, this is when you could have like introduced, like, I know it's not up to him, but like if the Academy put like you said, like having the stunt award, like that would have been less like a slap in the face because like, I'm sorry, but like casting, like what kind of award is that? Like you have so many other opportunities to like give different types of awards, but we all know the Academy is very like stagnant and they're not going to like advance too much. Like even getting minority actors and actresses to be nominated was such a push. So like to do something like this, I'm honestly shocked they're even going to give casting like the time of day, but like at the same time, why not try something different? I
think with the casting, when they finally announced that award, I was like, in my head, I was thinking, yes, because everybody above the line, everybody in the front credits was being honored at the Academy Awards, except for the casting directors. So I was like, I get it. But then also, casting is one of those awards that the popular movies can do because you can look at the Marvels and be like, bro, the fact that Paul Bettany is playing Vision is stellar casting. You can look at the Barbie movies and everything like that. And then when the stunts happen, the stunts are going to be those action films and people are going to be like, yes, that stunt. I think what would be great about the stunts is actually learning who these stunt people are and being able to celebrate the best of the best because they are wildly behind the scenes. And I know Lee can name one because Quentin Tarantino would put her in the movies, or at least Death Proof, but I can't name one.
Here's a question for you. Did anything not happen last night that you guys would have liked to have seen?
Definitely like the lifetime achievement or like some kind of honorary award, because I feel like that also would have, this show is technically supposed to be for everyone. So I feel like that would have also gotten the older people wanting to continue watching the show. Cause like my mom left because she had to finish cooking dinner at one point, but she was like, if this comes on, like, let me know. So I feel like if that happened, then that would have also brought that like older generation like to think, oh, actually I know this person or I remember this person. Like it's good that they're getting an award. Like it would have gotten that crowd.
They do it now at the Governor's Awards.
Okay.
Which this year were in January. They were hosted by comedian John Mulaney. Angela Bassett was given one.
Interesting. Okay.
And Mel Brooks was given one.
Now, Mel is the first to make jokes about his age, but we are not going to do that tonight.
No, we're not going to do that. Although, I will just say that it is quite remarkable that Mel is actually older than this organization, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Well, that's actually, Nathan, that's nothing. Mel is older than penicillin.
Is that true?
Yeah, he's older than the aerosol can.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Older than FM radio.
I think that's enough.
He's older than polyester.
He's older than polyester?
Yes.
Really? Well, that is old. Anyway, throughout Mel's incredible career...
He's older than the minimum wage.
Well, now you're just making things up.
Nuh-uh.
Anyway, throughout Mel's incredible career, he has occasionally had his detractors who have accused him of vulgarity, to which he famously replied, that's bullshit.
Mel, you're an institution, and we are so proud to be here tonight to see you officially institutionalized.
And two other people whose names I can't remember, nor are they. One of them was a producer, I believe. So they still do them. They just don't do them again. Time constraints. Unfortunately, I don't think they care if older people are watching. They want younger people to watch and do TikToks about it. Spro, you? Anything that didn't happen that you would have liked to have seen happen?
I mean, I think I said it. Like, I want Jack Nicholson in a booth. I want the stunt award. I want the practical effects award. I want the casting award. But I think for the most part, it's funny. I railed hard against the Oscars in the pre-show that we did, and I was very disappointed by everything. And then driving to my sister's last night, I had the biggest smile on my face because I was about to watch the Academy Awards. And I thought moving it up an hour was great. I was able to not be so tired at the end. There was no surprises, but that was a good show for me. I'm just, Ken, if you have a talent like Ryan Gosling and you have a very fun song like that and you just want to show it off, I feel like they need to figure out a way that they don't have to nominate it. It's not a nomination worthy song, but that was the greatest part of the night, that performance. Like, it made everybody just happy. Everybody got to relax a little bit. So find ways to like sprinkle those kind of moments in. The other thing, I want to figure out a way that the women can dress comfortably, because Margot Robbie's dress seemed like a posture corrector, the way that she was sitting in her chair. And then Emily Blunt, it was like armor, like it was like off of her shoulders and everything. I was like, I felt really grateful to be a guy, because we just wear a black suit and show up and like sit down, and suit pants are so comfortable. If nobody's worn suit pants in their life, go get a good pair. It's like silk underwear. But to watch these women like struggle to be in their seats and everything, I was like, we got to just find a way. There was that one year, I think it was the Golden Globes. I think it was during the hashtag Me Too, and everybody just wore a black dress, and it was like the same one. It was like probably the most comfortable night that they've all had at an award show.
Did you see the piece that Kate Winslet did recently? It wasn't a piece. She's not a journalist, and it wasn't a piece, but she was being interviewed, and it was making its rounds on socials. She was basically talking about how if she had the confidence as a young woman that she has now, she would have told a lot of the media to go fuck themselves. She didn't know who she was. She wasn't happy with her body. And she's like, make no mistake, we all fucking starve ourselves. From me on down to the skinniest of the skinnies, we all starve ourselves to wear those stupid fucking dresses. And it's for one night. And you bet your fucking ass the second I get in the limo, I'm taking it off. So yeah, there are.
That's what I liked about Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish is like, I'm going to wear baggy clothes so you can't judge my body, and it's like fantastic. I want to turn the question back to you, Lee. Was there anything? I know you fell asleep.
I did. I snoozed for a little while.
Traitor.
So that's a late night for old Lee. Well, I did say I would have liked to have seen Barbie win Best Picture, but there really were no surprises. Just too many awards already sewn up. That's the reason that Kimmel's like, what you got there? Is that an acceptance speech? Yeah, because it's not, because nobody's having any fun, because we all know we're going to see cocky Robert Downey go trotting up to the fucking podium. I'd like to thank my traumatic childhood. Which was a good line. I'll give it to him. But it's just so like, they have had months to figure out what they're going to say. There's no Olivia Colman who's like, oh my God, no offense. But even when Emma Stone accepts, it's like, you're fucking performing right now.
Oh boy, this is really overwhelming. Sorry, okay. And my voice is also a little gone. Whatever.
I don't know. I would have liked to have seen Barbie win. I would have liked to have seen Paul Giamatti win. I hope he gets one before he retires.
For sure.
And I would just really like somebody other than Jimmy Kimmel. I don't need a Ricky Gervais who's going to help people to fuck off. But yeah, it would be great to get somebody young, somebody charismatic, somebody vibrant, somebody who can, nobody's being like, I'm going to watch the Oscars because Jimmy Kimmel is hosting it. No one has ever said that phrase. I'm the first person to ever say that sentence. I mean, look around. There's plenty of talented people out there who could run that show and do a great job.
Yeah, I would like to see the different types of hosts, like, honestly bring in a different theme for, like, to go back to the costuming for a second, or like the dressing up for the Oscars. Like, if they had like a core theme for everyone, like kind of how they do for the Met Gala, I think that would be so dope. Like you said, people wouldn't have to like force themselves into these outfits. Like, if you look at any of them in there, like even Hunter Schafer, for example, like this outfit wasn't for, I don't know if it was for the Oscars last year, but like she wore like only a feather and then like a dress skirt, and people were like, I have like my own opinions about like modesty and like whatever. I think women can wear whatever they want as long as they're not being like sexualized by people. But like, you know, a lot of people are like, what happened to like real clothing and like other things? And I'm like, okay, well now you sound like my parents. But like, you know, it's like, I get it to an extent, but I'm like, if someone is like comfortable, then like let yourself be comfortable, you know, like, you know, especially if that's your own conscious decision and like not something that is made by someone else. If this is an outfit that you picked, then like go for it, because half the time I know like there are designers and like stylists and everyone like saying you should wear this because it will go with the movie that you're representing, or this and this and that. Because like, you know, Oppenheimer, like Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt, like they were wearing the same type of, like you said, like off-shoulder corset type thing. And then like for Dune, when Zendaya wore her own like galactic piece, and then like Timothée Chalamet wore his own piece at a separate time, people were saying they could have coordinated that. But I'm like, but also spotlighting the woman versus the man, etc. Like Timothy also, like, he wears his own stuff like from time to time. He's worn like backless pieces, and like I think he slays personally. Like he's not afraid to wear other types of pieces, and I admire any like person who wears like something that's like off the norm.
My wife loves him. She absolutely loves him.
I mean, I don't blame her. Have you seen him? Like
he's got like a cute little like rodent thing happening with his face. Like he's like a little mouse. Like if there's a family of mice, he's like the oldest son of the mice who's gonna like take over when Mice Dad leaves to go. I don't know. You know what I'm saying though? I get that from him a little bit.
Are you comparing him to Roddy from Flushed Away? Because that's what it's giving.
Maybe a little. I think he's better looking than that, but
no, way more better looking than that. I can kind of see it though. I feel like he has the ability to be like a cute little, like, people, there's a term like that people my age say like called soft boy. It's just like when you give like very like feminine energy. Like people say that he's capable of doing, Timothy's capable of doing that, but then also having like a hardcore like rough exterior, because like when he flexes his jawline, people are like, yeah, he can also do that. I'm like, yeah, I'm paying attention to that, don't worry. Like,
he seems very well read, which I like about him.
He's a French boy. He has to be.
he's a good actor too. That's the most important thing. Even Spro said, I like Ryan Gosling. I don't want to hang out with him, but he's good at what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he'd be a fun time. I feel like he would just act like a child half the time, but I'm here for it. I wanted to know also, what are your thoughts on John Cena's entrance? Because we haven't talked about that.
I thought that was going to be Matt Damon. First of all, like I thought Matt Damon was going to be the streaker, and then when it was John Cena, I thought they were going to make a joke of, well, I didn't think anybody was going to be able to see me because he's got that whole thing in his wrestling, but they didn't make that joke. And then when he came out, it made me feel bad about never working out in my life. Because that man came out like the Terminator.
He's got that like bottom of the tummy muscle that, like, you know what I'm talking about? The one that Brad Pitt had in Fight Club.
They call them the UPS lines or something like that because it goes straight to the like package.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm gonna take that one. I don't care for him. And I'm surprised in light of the internet definitely trying to vilify him because of his loyalty to Vince McMahon, following all of the allegations of Vince McMahon more or less whoring one of his entertainers out.
Oh.
When asked for comment, John Cena was like, come on, man, he's an old man or something like that. So I'm surprised that he was invited.
I mean, there are some people up there who had controversies, so like personally I'm not surprised, but like, I mean, the fact that like he was willing to, I know he had a sock on because they didn't blur it out, but like I could tell, not that I'm looking because I'm not, but like, I mean, the fact that like he even had like, I'm not saying courage, but like was like okay even coming on there, I'm like, that envelope is doing you a lot right now, because like, Lord forbid you get excited. I'm just saying, like, you're holding on to that envelope really hard, man. But like, it was so funny because I was not expecting that, and then when you turned to Margot Robbie in the camera and like she literally looked like she didn't even want to be there. Like that killed me.
I noted that as well.
Like, cause she's like third from the front, so like that's a whole view you're getting. Oh my God. Anything beats the fucking cocaine bear joke from last year though, or 2 years ago.
Oh, I liked the cocaine bear joke from last year. I enjoyed that.
Why? It was so
because it was. That's why I liked it.
I couldn't tell if like Elizabeth Banks was like being genuine or not.
There's another person who would be a great host, Elizabeth Banks.
What?
Very charismatic.
was like, so bringing up John Cena, I was like, that's kind of a Will Ferrell bit. Will Ferrell would be like the streaker bit coming out with his curly body hair. But he would be like, it would be nice to see like old SNLers coming out just to hang out and throw barbs at each other and like host the Oscars. Have the old greats come out.
Well, that would just be for us millennials.
Mm-hmm. But that includes like Adam Sandler and Chris Rock, you know? Maybe not have them be hosts, but like have a theme to the presenters, right? Like if you did the Muppets one year, like the Muppets were the presenters, but like having like, oh, look, we're going to bring out people that will never be nominated for an award, but are celebrities. You know, that's just, now that I have that thought, it's going to make me feel sad. It's going to make me feel Bradley Cooper with the glimmer in his eyes, front row with his mom sad.
Oh my god. I think Bill Hader could also do it.
I would be into that 100%.
I do want to ask, did you both of you notice like because I didn't watch the red carpet portion of this, how some of the actors and actresses, directors were wearing like the ceasefire, like pro-Gaza pins, like for Palestine.
I did not notice that. I didn't watch the red carpet either. I was preparing for my guests.
Got you. I know Rami Youssef, like he mentioned, because he's been very outspoken about that. So like when I noticed that, I was like, I'm really glad that people are like at least showing like solidarity, and like Mark Ruffalo has been like a huge speaker about it. So when I heard that, I was like I know this is like we're venturing into like, you know, territory that's not movie related, but like I mean, I don't know. I personally was happy to see that because like I felt like there was something that needed to be said. Same with like Jonathan Glazer, like kind of alluding somewhat to that in like his speech. And like he was shaking, like even reading that off the piece of paper, because the censorship like would get so much to the point where he was like, I don't even feel comfortable saying this with fear of like having the mic be cut. So like, I'm honestly shocked that even any of that was being presented, but like, I am glad that it was said, even though the words like ceasefire and like genocide, Gaza, like were omitted from it. I'm still glad it was said. I don't know if either of you have thoughts on that.
Lee made a correct prediction that 20 Days of Miracle was going to win. And then it was surprising that because they were ushering a lot of people off stage, they were starting to play the music because people's acceptance speeches were going too long. And they gave however much time they want. The director of that feature wanted to give his political speech. And it was one of those moments last night where I was like, everybody should get the 45 seconds, you know, like, don't make exceptions because it's following some kind of political ideology that you want to explore. Just usher them off. I did not know. I saw the pins. I knew they meant something. I tried to like walk up to the screen because they didn't focus on them. They didn't point them out. I didn't watch the red carpet either. So I don't know if somebody brought it up and was like, what's the pins for this time? I know that during the hashtag #MeToo movement, they were always commenting about what the political stance was and why everybody was wearing black and everything. So I don't know if they did. I would hope that they did because fuck war. Let's stop killing people for dumb, arbitrary reasons.
Yeah, I mean, Rami did allude to it, like because I think one of the reporters like was asking like, oh, can I ask what the pin is for? And then Rami was like being very outward in expressing that, which he has been for a while. So like, there's actually an account on Instagram called like Celebrities for Palestine or Palestine, and it showcases like all the celebrities who have been saying something or like reposting content for it, which like a lot of my friends are in support of. So like, I don't know, he's been highlighted on that page a lot. So I personally was happy to see him and Mark Ruffalo like being this at the forefront of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's got a microphone now with Twitter and whatnot, like
and podcasts.
I mean, this is fun. So
I was just gonna say, this was a lot of fun, Megan. I'm happy we were able to do it. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, this was fun. I'm glad.
10 wonderful films were nominated, but only one will take the award for Best Picture. And I have to go to the envelope for that. And I will. Here it comes. And my eyes see Oppenheimer. Yes. Yes, Emma Thomas, Charles Grodin.
Well, that is the official end of season 4. We've done our 8 episodes. We did our pre-Oscars show, our year in review, and now here's our post-Oscars show. We will not be back officially until 2025. I've got something cooking for this summer. I'm going to be doing a little summer series, but I'm just putting that out here now because now I can't back out. But that'll be all Lee, no Spro, and they'll be super short episodes, but we'll talk more about that as summer approaches. So yeah, you got some time off from Spro and Lee and plenty of time to catch up and follow us on Instagram and share the show with people that you know. And thanks again to our guest today, Megan.
Thank you.
Spro, you got anything to add?
I'm Spro.
And I'm Lee, and we hope that you were sitting front row when they read those envelopes.
Seem to matter what I do. I'm always number 2. No one knows how hard I try. Oh, I have feelings I can't explain, driving me insane. All my life been so polite. I'll sleep alone tonight. I'm just kidding. Anywhere else I'd be a take. Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blind fragility? I'm just kidding. Where I see love, she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the tail and fight for me?
I'd like to thank everybody here tonight for looking so good.